Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Whovians of all ages. Welcome to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. My name is Christian Basil. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us on the live feed on the StreamYard, thank you for joining us. Don't forget, if you are online, to please chat in with us. When you log in with us, chat with us on the feed. You can just type in any information you want. We have a special guest for you tonight. But again, if you happen to be listening to us on Spreaker, on CBS Radio, on Spotify, on our new friends on nsclivetv.com, you can also listen to us on iHeartRadio, also on Apple Podcasts, and definitely on Krypton Radio. And you'll be seeing us on the air. If you aren't able to catch this, you can see us on YouTube at the HWWS Media family. Check us out there as well. My name is Christian Basil. I'm the host of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Let me introduce you to the panels today, and let me introduce you eventually to the fine gentleman right here to my left. I have director and artiste Melanie Dean. How you doing there, Melanie?
I had muted. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Because I was typing. I'm like, I don't know.
We're off to a great start today.
And I got to go click on mute. So hello, everyone. Good to see everybody.
And joining us again to be doing the Who Knew News in just a few moments is Brian Barretts himself, Dr. Freedom. How you doing there, Dr. Freedom?
How's everybody doing out there? I hope everybody's doing okay.
We're doing great. And joining us for the first time on the live feed is Kevo Reese from Husbands Talking More or Less. Kevo, for those of you just joining us on the live feed, tell us a little bit about Husbands Talking More or Less.
Well, it's a podcast that I do with my husband where we watch different things and comment on them. The first year we did the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and for all of 2020 so far, we've been going through the Star Wars universe in chronological order. Clone Wars is really confusing.
Uh-oh. I think he's kind of frozen up.
Clone Wars is very confusing.
There you go.
But the show also, because I listened to it, also does a lot of the X-Men universe. So it's not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe; it's also the comic books.
I lost track of Clone Wars. It started going all over.
They just did the final season, and it's amazing. If you can see it, if you have Disney Plus.
I just love Tom Baker in it.
Yes. Yes, that was the voice that Tom Baker showing up. Also, you heard it, and you're like, "Wait, I know that.
Yep.
I know
As
that."
the Bendu, yeah, I love that.
That big moose-looking, I guess I don't know what you want to call it. It was huge.
And again, if you're just joining us on live, please make sure that you are on the feed itself at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, or wherever you're listening to us. I believe if you went to Krypton Radio and the Hanging with Web show Facebook page, type in there, and we should be able to get your comments right away for Richard himself. And let me introduce you to our new friend out here, Richard Ashton. Richard, for some of you who may not have seen Richard's work, you probably are aware of what he looks like.
There you go. Yes, that's my Sunday best. Yes,
what he really looks like. There you go.
Oh, that's
love that.
They bring me up. Yes,
gotcha there, Richard. For everybody who might be joining us for the very first time, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Doctor Who.
Well, I was born in 1965. So in England in 1965 and the preceding, the successive years, you couldn't avoid getting into Doctor Who. You're born into Doctor Who. Those of you who know the episodes better than I will know that I went through John Pertwee and obviously then into Tom Baker and then kept going. But really, we had 3 TV stations, only one of which was any good, particularly if you were a kid. So therefore, Doctor Who was my life.
Do you have a specific doctor that did you literally just start with Pertwee and then he kind of became your doctor, or?
Do you know, it's like the conversations we have at the cons sometimes. And I say to people, hang on to yourself. If you can remember when the Doctor changed for you, and then how you felt before, how you felt after, how you felt subsequently. I was horrified, heartbroken when Tom Baker became the Doctor. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine anything so insane?
Yeah, because He's
I
fine,
I was not familiar with this concept.
Mhm.
I was too young to remember Patrick Troughton, and obviously William Hartnell. And I remember being viscerally shocked. And then, of course, you get in and you go and you fly with him and you do what he does, and you can't imagine him not being the Doctor.
Mhm.
And that's when I'm trying to talk people through some of the more shocking, things that they find. Don't worry about it. You just go with it. You'll be fine. Being in the show, I've got to meet quite a few doctors, which has been really quite incredible.
And before we go to the Who Knew News in just a few moments there, I want to present everybody who's with us with it. Thank you for joining us. We got Kyle Nunes saying hello. Hello there, Kyle. We also have Alexa DeBoer. I hope I pronounced that right. Very bad with names. Hello there, Alexa. And Mrs. Freedom herself. What does she go by? I keep forgetting her name, Brian. What does she go by?
That's Lady Gallifrey there, yeah.
That's Lady Gallifrey there. Guys,
Yeah.
welcome there. And again, if you want to be part of this chat, please make sure that you are in the comments. Just comment below. Type in as you're chatting to respond. Truly appreciate it there. Oh, wow. We get some people coming in. Good afternoon from Canada. Anna. How you doing there, Anna? And Terry MacGyver. Evening all. There we go. And we also got Josh Verboven. Hello from Holland. Oh, wow. We got everybody representing tonight there. Well, welcome to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS there, folks. We've got Richard Ashton, who played the Ice Warrior. The Iceman Cometh. The Ice Warrior Cometh. We're talking with Richard. Also, we have... I'm going to get it wrong.
Aloysius. Aloysius Pagan. Yeah, because he goes to Chicago TARDIS. He's also a mutual friend of mine. So,
gotcha. Oh, Northwest Indiana representing. There we go. There, awesome. There, folks. Well, before we go any further, let's go ahead and first of all, I just want to wish everybody happy Cinco de Mayo. Booyah. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Happy Cinco de Mayo, or for our friends on the other side of the geekdom world, Revenge of the Fifth. Yeah. And if you want to check them out, we have some great pictures for while this is going on. We have some great pictures of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. If you want to check them out, this is just some random stuff that we have out over there, and some things that the Traveling TARDIS has been. Well, that's a little too soon, I think. There, also at Galaxy's Edge with the Millennium Falcon, and one of my favorite pictures of all time. There you go. That is one of my favorite faves. Gotcha there.
Yeah, leave it to us, Seth Lord, to use the poor little TARDIS as a shield.
Exactly there. Speaking of TARDIS as a shield, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to the Who Knew News with Mr. Brian Burress. Check him out. Dr. Freedom himself on the YouTube channel. Please make sure when you go over to the YouTube channel, you are looking at Dr. Freedom. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. News from around to the Whoniverse, and whenever news drops, he's right on top of it. So take it away there, Brian. And let's go to our first article.
Okay, first up, a quick mention. It turns out that the pandemic has delayed the dubbing of Doctor Who Series 12 in the German. Now, originally, they were supposed to be getting Series 12 premiere on April 16th. Now, apparently this has been backed up on German television to July 23rd. So, sadly, the coronavirus has delayed this particular event for them. So, they won't be getting Series 12 till well over midsummer. All right, next up. Now, this is one that involves us here, the panel on Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. And this is talking about the Andrew Cartmel interview. Like I said, I kind of disagreed with the headline because at this time he had not seen the episode, but I could see where they were kind of leaning with it. But like I said, if you didn't get a chance to see it, go look it up over there. Christian has all the information on where to find it. But if you want to look up this article here over on Doctor Who TV, it covers pretty much what we were discussing with them there on that panel about, how he would have handled all this. But like I said, at the time, he hadn't seen The Timeless Child. So, but also he had some very funny things to say about a sonic screwdriver.
I used a very colorful metaphor about the sonic screwdriver. I think he has some issues with it. But yeah, I never thought that anything we do as far as anything on this show would end up in Doctor Who TV. But there it is. And there have been a lot of people who have brought their opinions about this. Now, again, and some of them are my friends too, but again, these opinions are those who state them and not necessarily ours. But I know at least Clownfish TV and Erotic has already mentioned things about this article and this interview, and I never thought I'd live today to see, oh my gosh, well. So there you go. We've made it into Doctor Who TV there. That's something I never thought would be gone. And next
also,
up,
one thing I want to remind the audience out there, though, remember, this should be printed on every episode. Doctor Who lore is subject to change. It always is.
Stop that, Melanie.
Okay, next up. The Girl in the Fireplace is getting a new prequel written by Stephen Moffat. Apparently, this is being done for their lockdown, which I believe occurs tomorrow on the 6th. So this prequel, titled Pompadour, was announced on Twitter by Sophia Miles, who played Renette, a.k.a. Madame de Pompadour, in the episode. She said, quote, "Renette rises again. I have some homework to do," she wrote, end quote. So this is going to be another nice one of the little segments that they've been doing, putting ahead of the lockdowns. So can't wait to see, what he has in mind for this, little bit regarding, Madame de Pompadour, this many years on.
All right.
Okay, Stephen Moffat also revealed apparently that there's a secret future Doctor hidden in one of his old episodes. Now, what he's making reference to here is, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. And apparently one of the things that he and RTD had discussed, and they talk about this in this article over here on Radio Times, is that when you see Colin Salmon as Dr. Moon, apparently what they're referring to was that a future Doctor recorded his image as Dr. Moon. So when you're seeing Dr. Moon, you're seeing a way off future incarnation of the Doctor. I think in the article he said something like it's like the 45th Doctor or something like that. It's way, way, way on. So I thought that was really interesting that they came out and said that this could possibly be an image of a future Doctor that was used for Dr. Moon. So kind of nice little inside bit there. And that's all I had for the Who Knew News for today.
I just think I would be ecstatic if Colin Salmon was a doctor somewhere along the way. He's a
brilliant actor. I could see him doing the role.
Well, that's all for the Who Knew News today. We're going to go into a commercial break. When we return, we're going to be talking to that man right off the camera over there. We're going to be talking to Richard Ashton and his career as far as getting started in being an actor and how he got his gig and being an ice warrior. So please continue to stay logged on, stay tuned in, and continue to become part of the legend. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basil. I'm the host of this show. Also the owner of the Traveling TARDIS, which Melanie has hidden away somewhere in her house. Oh, there it is. Hey. That's the little bugger that started it all there. That's the Traveling TARDIS there, Richard.
He was hiding
behind there is a photo there somewhere. It's even cuter. Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't find anybody who has that photo. I'm sorry.
No. That's fine. That's fine there. So, Richard, we're going to take it off. How did you get the acting bug? Where did it all start? And we'll go into how you got your gig in Doctor Who there. And please, for those of our friends, continue to chat. We're going to be showing your chats throughout the interview.
Cool. Very traditional, very, very traditional. Regular state school system in the UK. There is quite a lot of arts input, music and dance and drama, and most people will tell you at primary school they did school plays and nativity plays and stuff like that. And I did all of those, and I enjoyed them enormously. I think probably I enjoyed most of all singing, because we did an awful lot. We grew up without science textbooks. We grew up without real literature textbooks. school. Yeah, it was a fairly underfunded kind of school.
That's in my mind. All I could think was it was just underfunded, so you just were in lecture mode, listening to your teachers, and them trying to figure out what else for you guys to do.
Well, anything they had as a resource. Here's an example. I have a brother who's 10 years older than me, and when he first went to that school, the books were 30 years old. So by the time I got to that school, the books were 40 years old. And so they were very keen on singing hymns and saying prayers and doing all the things that one does at a Church of England primary school. And of course, what it gives you is the joy of singing and speaking in concert with other people. And I always say that's where it started, because frankly, that and being made to run around the school hall in your underpants pretending to be a tree, which is, now this is a phenomenon you guys need to know about. It's something that used to be called music and movement. And they would get you on the hall and you'd be in your socks and your underpants and your vest. And then I don't know why they had to disrobe us, but they did. And then they'd turn on the radio, and then a live radio broadcast would lead us through this kind of all these various imaginary exercises of being in the wind and being a tree and being a pebble and being a frog and all that kind of stuff. Now, I loved it. I thought it was fabulous and enjoyed myself enormously. My eldest brother actually, I think, feigned total body paralysis at one point. They had to call the doctor out to him, and he couldn't move. And he said, I think Paul doesn't want to do music and movement. So not everybody, enjoyed it as much as I did. But that's where it started. That's really how it got going for me. And I just went through the school system and picked up drama classes and drama courses where I could. And then when the time comes to decide what you want to do, I decided to go to university to study drama. And thankfully picked a college which was massively practical. I went out to the University of East Anglia in Norwich. And kind of my graduation day, when everybody else was having champagne and going home to mum and dad and thinking about going to wherever people go for their gap year, I started a 38-date tour of The Tempest, albeit as a very young Prospero at the age of 22. And that was my first paid gig, and I really didn't stop from there.
I'm sorry, was it at one single theater, or was it, you said touring?
No, well, actually, it was a thing that had already been started by other students at my university. We sometimes did living history projects and local stately homes and that kind of thing. We were in Norwich and East Anglia. And there is a very big tradition of open-air touring theatre, particularly Shakespeare in the summers. Mm-hmm. And so I think actually I say 38, it's probably more. Mm-hmm. We performed outside pubs and churches and ruined monasteries and stately homes all over the east of England, and even came into London and did a few shows by the banks of the Thames, in that way that you do when you decide you're going to be an actor, and blimey, they're going to let you. And we'd perform to whoever was there sometimes, or whoever wasn't there. But no, I mean, that was quite a traditional thing for people to do. And it still goes on now. Hopefully when we get all this sorted out, people will be able to enjoy that stuff again.
Yeah, I have friends that have said that that's kind of that at some point in their lives living in the UK, that they just kind of got into this little thing of, we just lived from a van and just kind of went here, there, and everywhere and toured. And and then the first time I heard that, I found it kind of arresting. I mean, I thought it was brilliant that you could just go out and do that, because that's just not something that you're programmed in America to do, especially when, as an actor, you go to school, you do that, and then you start doing all of find the agent, you kind of start doing your extra work, blah, 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 blah. There's no real, you either do theater or drama, that's or film, that's it.
Yeah. To be honest, there were so few opportunities in film and TV in the mid-80s. Everybody starts, and very often starts, doing theatre for young people, because there were a lot more and better funded companies doing good work for young people, children's theatre and theatre and education, drama education work, as well as doing the shows. So there were more opportunities, and I guess there were people who just graduated and went and sat at home and waited to see what would happen. But for the most part, you just have to get involved. And I also think that no matter how much they tried to give us practical experience at university, which they did, you get your college degree and then you go and learn how to do it. And one of the great ways to do that is by touring. We still do have a good tradition of touring here. It is usual to see, parks and as I say, stately homes, ruined abbeys, whatnot, something going on. And they will range from local groups who've decided to do it, as their hobby, as their pastime, all the way up to fully professional things where, you're advertising it and you're getting funding and there is every kind of level of theatre available here. You don't have to look too hard for it, actually. Thankfully, it's still there. And from time to time, I've gone back and done open-air promenade shows. This new, people call it immersive or they call it site-specific. But basically, you go on a walk around a park and every place you stop, there's another scene from whatever play you're doing. And actually, I helped produce a number of those back in Manchester a while ago. And realized, it's where everybody joins in. The audience brings so much to it. You as working professionals can bring something to it which they like, but actually it's something you all create together. Not unlike a convention, actually. Everyone's bringing what they've got and everyone's bringing what they're interested in. So it's, maybe not everybody would have my story, but that certainly felt natural to me, to get involved from the word go and just not stop.
Which is really weird because for most part that people who I know who've graduated from either high school, college, and have pursued either what I call the arts and entertainment field, which is usually acting or music or something of that nature, the first thing they're always asked when they say, well, what's one thing that you learned about is that if somebody were to ask you that was going into this field, what would you tell them? He goes, stay far away as possible from this field at all costs. They would just tell them, no, don't. You want to go on the radio? Let me give you all the reasons why you shouldn't go on the radio. You want to get into acting? I hope you like the extra dollar value meal at McDonald's, because that's kind of thing.
Many actors when I first started would look at you and shake their heads and say, oh, you won't remember when you could earn a living doing this. All the way up to the then General Secretary of Equity, the British Actors Trades Union, who said, no, you're a drama student. I said, I see. Are you a student of economics?
Yeah, exactly. There.
What? Oh, no, I'm a drama student. Oh dear.
Yeah, exactly. And I went to Rollins for an acting career and didn't get too much out of it, to tell you the truth. And I got my college degree, used it for what I needed to do. But I guess my question would be, if somebody were coming up to you and approaching you, Richard, what would be advice for somebody who is an up and coming riser? What would you tell them?
Much cleverer people than I have got the much better answer to this question, which is always never take advice. That's the first piece of advice. But genuinely, I say to people, get involved. Get involved in whatever way you can get involved. And of course, it's a mirror, like most pastimes, activities, occupations, it's a mirror. It will tell you something about yourself. So go and have a go. And if it's the local drama group, if it's getting together with some people and putting on a show in the park, if it's getting together with some people and devising a show that you can maybe take to schools or old people's homes, that used to be a big thing when I was young. You develop entertainments based on old people's reminiscences and memories and do those things. Go and do it. Get involved, and it will tell you who you are. It will tell you where you are, and all the way up to the rather terrifying idea of people. I've done children's workshops and things, and workshops for young people where all they want to do is to be famous, and you think, okay, for what? Because at the moment, the only thing you can be, and so you need to look at your. I mean, if you really want the answer from a professional actor, and this was advice I was given, particularly when it came to America, go and look at the television. Can you see yourself? Can you see you in any of those shows? Well, if you can't, then you're either going to have to break the mold and create a whole new form of entertainment, or you're going to have to change yourself, and that's pretty tough. That's a tough thing. And I'm not sure I would have been able to do that, at 21, 22, 23. So I was very, very happy to get in the park and get in that van and run around and do loads of stuff.
Can you see yourself selling these razor blades?
Yeah.
Can you see yourself, can you see yourself selling butter?
I think I have a financially sort of stable enough aura, or somebody who looks like the kind of person you want to take home to mum. So I am not often asked to advertise things. There was a time back there, because I spent 10 years living in Los Angeles. And whilst I was there, I think I ended up as the spokesperson for Capital One credit cards, for Greenlight financial mortgages. I wish all those products and advertisers very, very well. I'm not sure I would be their poster child now.
Well, we got some chats over here. I'm not exactly sure where this is going. Frank Waller says, "I will give you a movement." I don't know where I'm hoping I don't know where that came from there. I'm not. You get a chat out there, and we've talked about 5 minutes, and then you're all of a sudden they chatted about something we said 10 minutes ago, and it's hard to go. Okay, what did we talk about there? Alanis, welcome to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS with our guest Richard Ashton. Alanis very wish they had more time together. And Jen Hogan, who actually I believe is, I think, production manager for the Kitchen Killers. I want to get that right. So Jen, if you want to put in the comments, and if anybody else wants to join in the chat, please do so. Go ahead and chat on in to the comments with our special guest today, Richard Ashton. And we've got a commercial break coming up over here. But when we return, I definitely want to talk about this guy.
Ah.
Wait a minute, we got to do the pose. There we go. No, Richard, you got to show yourself. No, you got to be in it. There you go. Richard. I'll never get this right out there. Folks, when we return, we're going to be talking to Richard more about his career and his little stint on Doctor Who. And I also want to talk about The Fifth Element. Oh, yeah. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, stay tuned in. Please continue to chat and become part of the legend. Ooh. Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basil. I'm here with the lovely Melanie Dean. Pieces of Melee. You should check her out on her Instagram. I'll check out if you're watching us on the YouTube channel or on the live feed, you can see all those paintings and stuff back out there. Oh, it's still my favorite, the Jodie Whittaker one. Jodie's still one of my favorites on out there.
Lean back. Look, there's 4 things.
There you go.
Good Omens piece.
A lot more, but those are the 4 that I see a lot of.
Good Omens is back there.
We've got Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Barres. Please make sure you're going on the YouTube channel. Check him out. Subscribe. Anytime news drops, he's going to be talking about it, and he's got something to say about it. And we're with a special guest, Richard Ashton, better known as this guy. But you've probably seen him looking like that. That's even better.
A little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit better. Okay, Richard, how did you get the gig? And I really want to talk about how you got in and out of that suit, because that's my favorite question.
Oh, okay.
The people get into the monster thing. It's just like, how long? When did you have to go? Did you have to hold it in a certain?
The way in which the casting happens, for characters like that on Doctor Who, is very traditional. You know, the director makes their choices. They talk to the producer. They invite people in. And I sat and talked with all of them, with Wayne, about we read it and we treated it as if it was, a regular script with a regular character. And then, obviously, as interest was coming across from the other side of the table, they asked me slightly more pertinent questions like, "You do know what this is?" And I went, yes, I'm very well aware of what an Ice Warrior is. I've grown up with Ice Warriors. I know how this is going to go. It's going to be big. It's going to be heavy. And I'll have a bucket on my head. And Wayne particularly was wanting to point out just how much of me would finally be envisioned. And I said, no, absolutely. I know how this works. And I mean, people at conventions will have heard me say this many times before, but if it was good enough for Bernard Bresslaw, who's one of my great heroes, then it's certainly good enough for me. But also I have another angle into it, which is I got my equity card in the UK by doing a puppet show for the Norwich Puppet Theatre, which is a fabulous institution and used to do some incredible touring shows for kids, and involve you in real puppetry. And to me, the Ice Warrior is another object through which you can express something. But as you're saying, the difference is here, you're wearing it. And we were chatting a little bit before about the Fifth Element.
Right.
And that was the last time I had done a job in a suit. There must be 20-something years more between the Fifth Element and my episode of Doctor Who. And I did not get inside a suit in all that time. But when Doctor Who came up, and being realistic, I thought, you know what? This might be my chance. I will take it. I will take it. It has to be the hottest, heaviest thing I've ever done. It's astonishing. You can't really prepare yourself for something like that. Thankfully, I'd got the experience of being a Mondo and doing various other bits of skin work when I was a lot skin work in terms of wearing a skin, not that other stuff.
Right.
Yes, I was prepared, but the weight of it was astonishing. I mean, in Vikings, I had a real chainmail outfit with any amount of leather and swords and all that stuff. The Ice Warrior makes that look like wearing nothing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And Gary, who's the sculptor at Millennium, who I know from old because he did a Jerry Anderson thing that I did, he was just saying to me, look, this is a very archaic material. It's something which we don't use. It's a 2-part cast resin. It's incredibly thick. It's incredibly heavy, and it's completely impermeable. So you will sweat like you've never sweat before. But the finish on it, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible. The way they finish it and the way they do it. But in terms of time, I was never in the studio for less than 15 hours a day. We were always nudging them to try and give us more time to get into the prosthetic and into the suit and to get out of it safely. We got it, in reality, we got it down to about 2 hours in the morning and about an hour and 20 in the evening at the end of the day. So I would finally come out of the studio and everybody else is in the bar at the hotel, you know, having dinner and having a chat. And I'd just go and sit in the pool or in the sauna or whatever they got, and wait for my consciousness to catch up with me. Because when you're that hot and when you're that isolated from what's going on, you have to kind of distance yourself. Otherwise, you're going to freak out. You know, thankfully, I don't suffer from claustrophobia or anything like that. And you know, some people had issues because we had a couple of other guys wearing the suits on the job, and one of them had to go home. But then we had that on Fifth Element too. You know, not everybody can do that thing of, okay, this is intolerable, and I'm going to tolerate it by not being here. I'll put myself somewhere else. And of course, in the middle of it, then there are lines to do. You know, there are lines to do. Interaction to be done, and there's try not to run into Peter Capaldi and knock him over. I did actually manage to bump into Freddie Kingsley during the filming, and in the episode he brilliantly ran with it and turned it into a kind of note of annoyance at this bloody creature. But in actual fact, I just walked straight into him because I couldn't see him. You know, it's one of the I think the hardest physical thing that I've ever done, but immensely rewarding. Gary, who sculpted it, helped me very much by learning how to make it move like it was a puppet, not just some big thing you're throwing around. I think sometimes if you get in a skin, people want to show just how much they can make it move. But I don't want to make it move. I want to make it live. And that's where the puppetry thing comes in. There's a style of puppetry called bunraku, where you are completely visible. In fact, two of you may have the same puppet. So the master might have the head and the right hand, and the other person might have the left arm and the legs. But you're completely in vision of the audience. And your job, of course, is to animate the puppet so that you disappear. And you do. You really, really do. And that's kind of the way I came to it and thought, right, I'm in this thing. If I throw it around like a dolly, it's going to look stupid. And I think that's the problem. I mean, we did try and do some bullet hits and things like that where the Ice Warriors fell over, and I noticed they didn't make it to the episode, which tells me that A, we wasted quite a lot of blood and pain doing that. But also, you can't ever let the suit die. Like you can't let a puppet die. And if you've done something that's wrong for the way the suit looks, no, we can't be having that. We can't. That has no place in it. It's like I really didn't like people taking photos of me with the head off or with the carapace off or whatever, because you don't do that. I mean, now you can, yes, of course, and it's all good fun. And in fact, I've got a great thing of me putting the suit on off of a fiberglass positive of Ross Mullen, because Ross, who many of you will know, is also a very, very dear friend of mine. Has been quite some time. He got me into convention world actually.
Oh, but really?
Yeah. He held my hand and told me this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to love it, because I'd steered clear of it for nearly 30 years. Because I did a show back in the day for Warner Brothers called The New Adventures of Robin Hood, and they used to have these kind of Ren Fair type things, which I didn't understand, and I wasn't mature enough to understand them. And he got me into it. But standing there, taking the suit off of Ross, really, off his fiberglass positive, putting it on was like picking up a puppet. And now you're responsible for it, and now you can't let it die, and you've got to sell it. And it's the Ice Warriors. I mean, you just want them to do well,
Yeah.
Yeah. No sense anywhere of, this is just the job, or this is just a thing I've got to carry around. And I know a lot of people that work more regularly in Doctor Who, like, John Davey, for instance, who's now a pal. They take immense care to make those things live.
So I guess the question, I want to go back to that question of the conventions, because what was it that you felt uncomfortable for? What did Ross? We actually had Ross on the show. I think
I saw that.
3 or 4. What was it that Ross brought in that introduced you that made this is something that I can do now? Because I saw you at a convention too. I think was it Li Who, or was it? It
was Li Who. That's right.
Li Who. Okay, I think that's where it was.
Yeah. I think I just needed him to talk me through it, because I'd always been a bit worried. This is a very British perspective, perhaps, but why would anybody want to talk to me? I was just in the show. I mean, what's that about? Isn't it a bit big-headed? Isn't it a bit peculiar to want to show yourself off? And he just said, Richard, you don't understand. These people bring the convention. Mm-hmm. You're at their convention. This is their convention. It's not your convention. It's theirs. Mm. And from that entree, and he has his own style, and he interacts with the fans. And of course, he's rather better known than me for some of the much more sort of famous characters that he's done, and in Game of Thrones and things like that. But he gave me that seed, and I always say now it's like I've been invited to somebody else's birthday party, and I'm there to celebrate them as much as the show. And most, my goodness me, at the 31 Flavors of Galley this year, we had the most amazing time of all kinds of people who Christopher Eccleston came and I think was really surprised by just how warm and sharing and fascinating it is. And now I just feel entirely privileged to be invited when I am invited. And my job is to be in enough things that make me of interest to people, I suppose.
I think to explain it, that it's not that you're showing off, or I've never seen that when somebody comes in over there. You're a conduit because you've been on the show, and you are the interpretation of what we want. Because we were talking about to Jeremy Raddick earlier. Oh, yeah. He said he would be a potted plant, and he would have been happy with that. And people have seen him. He was just on for about 2 minutes in the TV movie, maybe even less than that. But he became a conduit to people who were like, and like I said, I would ever see that in you. I would be going like, tell me about it. Tell me about your world. Not only that, but I would go like, tell me about you, how you got in there, because I want to know in there, because I want to be a potted plant too. in the background.
I mean, I'm much better off talking about other people sometimes. I mean, it's like we talk about Jamie Hill and how Jamie became so many of the monsters in New Doctor Who, because literally he, was working as the business manager of the experience, and was set onto a business management career. But Jamie's not that much shorter than me, and weighs half of what I used to do 25 years ago, and so is just this amazing, strong young live man who also understands human interaction, and he's became all these incredible. You look at that and think, well, that's luck, but that's also being the right person for that job at that time. And when people say, how did you get into it, I always say, just get involved. We're in the world now where you go to conventions, talk to the model makers. I know so many of the people who worked on my suit were fans, were proper fans, who'd gone to college and paid for their own college courses quite often to learn how to do prosthetics so they could work on Doctor Who. And they made it happen. Jimmy Mann, who's out there now, my goodness, you wouldn't find a bigger Doctor Who fan than Jimmy. And he's now the guy. It's fantastic.
Well, Richard, I'm gonna hold that thought for a moment because I got a final question. When we return, we're on a heartbreak right now. When we return, we're going to wrap up our interview with Richard Ashton, the Ice Warrior cometh. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and become part of the legend. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. The Legend, the Traveling TARDIS Radio Show. My name is Christian Basil. We're at the final segment of the portion of this interview with Richard Ashton. I'm here with our lovely director, Melanie Dean, and Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. And I've got to do this. We've got a few chats coming in, but I want to introduce you to Matthew Rose, who says, "Hi, Richard. Glad you wished me happy birthday this week. Same as you, Freedom." So
that's my friend Matt. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday, Matthew. How old is Matthew? Do we know?
Oh, now you got me because now I can't remember. I'm blanking. But he's way younger than any of us. I can tell you that right now.
So happy birthday, Matthew Rose. Whatever age you are, you can put it in the chat. So I'll kick it up in there. Unless you're trying to hide the fact, that's fine by me there. And then we also have Frank Waller, who said, "Nice night coat."
Night coat. This is my lumberjack shirt.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay.
Oh, man.
Straight out of the Pacific Northwest there.
That's it. Yes, perhaps.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw in. I kind of feel your pain there because, it seems like a billion years ago. I cosplayed a Klingon warrior for like well over a decade, probably close to 15 years, and it was the full blown, movie era with the. My uniform was like 15 pounds solid vinyl. And then you have the latex prosthetic. Then you have a full wig over the top of that. And it was literally, we used to do events in the spring, the summer. I remember one time we did like the Woolly Bear Parade up here. It was like, we had to wait 2 hours. It was already 90 degrees in the shade that morning. And it's like, by the time the day is done, it's like, you feel like, oh gosh, you literally you did have to go off to another plane just to stay sane because you're literally sweating. I was drinking bottled water. I can't remember how many. I probably can't even count on both hands how many bottles of water I went through that morning. But I know what that's like, being in heavy prosthetics and all that. Also, I wanted to bring up really quick that you're also in the Christmas Prince series, right?
Oh, yes.
I knew about it because I've always been a big fan of Rose McIver since iZombie.
Fantastic.
I've been following her on Twitter and all that, and she mentions it all the time. So I thought I better bring that up.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Christmas Prince movies were a happy accident, I think. I don't think we really thought we'd end up doing 3 of them. And who knows? Maybe more. Currently, I'm in bad odor. I'm in the dungeon. I'm wearing my orange Guantanamo suit. And I seem to have been fingered as the malefactor. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right.
We're getting back to the chats. Alita Miller Steinhauer, who is now married to Talon Steinhauer. Please check those out. A couple of geeks cosplay on their Instagram. She says, hello, Alita. It's been a while. I'm hoping, how speaking of conventions, how is kind of, we here in the States have kind of pushed all our conventions back. In fact, some of them are going to be like what I mentioned in previous shows, MegaCon. No, I'm sorry, Florida SuperCon, which is one of the biggest cons in South Florida, and Tampa Bay Comic Con, which is one of the biggest Tampa Bay Con. They're sitting right next to each other on weekends. So, and we're scheduled to go to both there. How is the convention world in the UK now? Has it just come to a halt? Have they tried to do anything? We've done a couple of online things over here, or have they just been quiet?
But that's right. Me too. I mean, I've done joined in with a couple of online things. At the moment, there's nothing. I mean, everything I had scheduled for this year clearly got pulled. There's even things in the States which no one's rung me to tell me we're not doing them in August, but I rather imagine we won't. Nothing happening here. I had a big one set up in Great Yarmouth, which is out on the East Coast. And, it would have been 4,000 people in a caravan park for 4 days. There's no way you could do it, I don't see. As far as I know, nothing's happening at all. Wow. I mean, I was doing a children's writing charity in London when the lockdown came, and we went around the room as we also said goodbye to each other because we obviously couldn't continue. And there were people who were not now going off to do, a series of movies in Eastern Europe. There were people who weren't going to go and do the new Harry Potter play in Canada. There were people who had just said goodbye to 2 years of solid work. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's not the most important thing that's happening. Of course it isn't. But it is a bit daunting, particularly, we have to make this life, this world, just as everybody else does, And so when people say what's coming up, it's impossible. I keep in touch with a few people, but we're still all on hold. Mm-hmm. So many things are on hold, aren't they?
Yeah, life has just come. It's just a waiting process right now, and I'm just hoping. Conventions are really optimistic. I'm really optimistic. I'm hoping that, and right now, I don't want to get into political things, but we're slowly opening back up, which I'm really happy to see. Some people are not, but yeah, Melanie. I'm one to mind now. I don't want to start the debate, but I'm one to mind to say that I don't think COVID-19.
For what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if COVID-19 knows the difference between a beach or my grocery store. That's my theory there. But I mean, everybody has their call, and everybody, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. We just hoping that we get through this, and I want everybody safe. So if you can stay home, if not, oh well. Speaking of staying home, unfortunately, Kevo could not. He's having some technical issues, but he is part of the chat today. Hey! Cavalries of Husbands Talking More or Less. Kevo says, having done several Christmas movies beyond even the Christmas Prince series, what would be your ideal Doctor Who Christmas special, either a fan, an actor, or both?
That's a brilliant question. I used to think it would, because I'm a huge fan of all the Charles Dickens Christmas books, because as you know there are several, and I'd always thought it was that would be the ideal kind of, but in a way we've seen that world a little bit in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is going to be a bit off the wall, but the other thing I have done many times, 30 plus in my life, is to do pantomimes in England. Mm-hmm. And there is something very, very specific about the nature of the pantomime as the theatrical form, because it involves cross-dressing and it involves men being women, women being men, children being animals, and all manner of things going on.
I call that Thursday.
No, exactly. It might be quite brilliant as a Christmas special if the Doctor found herself in a pantomime and realised the only way to save the world was to successfully live through the action of the pantomime and make sure that good triumphed over evil as it should. And I want to write it, and Mark Gatiss will instead, but never mind. I think that would be the most perfect. In fact, why have I just said this? No, you should never give your good ideas away. Because there is something about that whole business of no matter how fantastical, no matter how strange the scenario, we all know what the story is, and we all know how we want it to end. And of course, Doctor Who's brilliant at giving us those happy endings, but in ways that we weren't expecting, and teaching us so much along the way. And that's what pantomime's good for as well. So that's what I'd like, Kev. That's what I'd like to see.
Well, if anybody steals your idea, you can say, no, I was on the Traveling TARDIS radio show, and it's recorded.
No, they already did something kind of
I know
like that.
Jody would love to do it. So
it was Benny Summerfield. It was called And No It Isn't, if I remember right. It was one of her first adventures. She was trapped literally in this land of Panto.
Really?
And she had to get out. Yeah, it was one of her very early adventures. Benny Summerfield, yeah. I believe it was called And No It Isn't.
There you go. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, no, it isn't. It's behind you. Normally that's my career, but there you go.
There was I'm not trying to steal this from somebody, but there was a fan fiction of Doctor Who which I thought was amazing. I just never saw it, but I saw the premise and I saw the trailer to it. It's essentially the Doctor has wiped his memory out, and he's on Earth as Colin Baker, and everybody around him is convincing him that he's the Doctor. And he's going like, no, I'm just an actor. I'm not really Doctor Who. And they go, no. It wasn't a TV show. It was for real. Everything was for real. So the whole premise is that they're all trying to convince him he's the Doctor, but all the enemies are trying to convince him no, he's not. He's just an actor on it. So I have not seen it. I wish I could find it, but I just remember the trailer. It was so wonderful. I thought that would
because that was the other lovely thing for me meeting Colin at conventions, because he and I did do a pantomime together in Norwich, like 30 years ago probably, and he's a phenomenal panto actor.
Yeah,
he's a phenomenal actor. My God, I saw his Magwitch in Great Expectations. He was brilliant. I think he'd be well up for that.
Kevo's got another entry. He says, I saw another interview, by the way, where you said Dickens would be writing EastEnders today. My husband and I both laughed out loud at that one. So,
completely.
Tell us a little bit about what he just talked about there.
Well, because Charles Dickens was a social activist and reformer, and he actually was very practically involved in a lot of working people and the poor in London particularly. And he did. He tried to show Victorian society its own rather dark underbelly, and he did it in the most, if you think about it, the most extreme ways. EastEnders hasn't even gone near to being as extreme as Charles Dickens yet. You know, we said the ubiquitous EastEnders script is get out of my pub, you're not my mother, Ricky, and that's it. That's every EastEnders episode you could ever want right there. But no, Dickens knew what was going on. He knew what was what. He was also a fairly interesting character himself, and not always the lovely man we'd like to think he was. He knew quite a lot about doing things you shouldn't do, and splitting up families and things. No, definitely, he was a populist writer. Shakespeare was a populist writer who wrote for a very quick, immediate market, and if it didn't come across, people wouldn't put their pennies in that pottery pig.
Is there a literary figure you wish that the Doctor Who series would bring in? Because they've done an episode where they've brought Dickens, they've brought Shakespeare. Now they just did the Frankenstein and Shelley and whatnot.
Oh, Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, is there if there's anybody that you find inspirational or think as a person would be a living character really themselves, that would be perfect for a Doctor Who?
That's a really good question.
Oh, I have somebody who just gave an answer. What do you think about this, Richard? Wait, we have an answer.
Well, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, the his last few days. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be bring. Oh God.
Well, there is that whole
scary
which is real, and was it his cousin? I think was murdered. And
I think. Oh gosh.
No, I'm on shaky ground here, but I remember listening to a radio drama, which was a dramatization of the last days of Poe, and how it was really quite extreme. And it also kind of suggested where the figure of the Raven came from as well, which was quite interesting.
That's true.
Poe's dark enough, definitely. Yeah. I like that.
Kevin pops back in and says maybe someday they'll teach Doctor Who in school too. Oops.
Well, now you see Charlie
Yeah.
Mackenzie, and those of us in the con world and in the Big Finish world know full well that Charlie's been teaching Doctor Who at secondary school for ages, quite seriously. It's and not as a as a cultural artifact, but as a literary text worthy of examination.
I know, because sometimes it still freaks me out because, some of us who've been around, into Doctor Who for so long, we start referring to it like, they do the Egyptian dynasties. We remember back in the Hinchcliffe era that this occurred. Then there was in the time of Holmes.
Dynasty?
And what's fascinating for me is having grown up through the show and watching these things sequentially in a time when there was no VHS. There were no repeats, certainly not that I ever remember there being repeats. So you had your one opportunity to see that adventure and then go to school the next, not the next day, obviously, because we have to wait through Sunday, to then go and talk to your friends about it. And that cemented it in your mind. And that was it. You were never going to see it again. And if the BBC had their way with wiping over the tapes, you certainly won't see it again. It's... then to come to a convention where people have sometimes watched the Doctors out of order or have got to know them all at once, I think that's the perspective that fascinates me. How do you introduce your children to this character who has got so many different faces all at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Well, here stateside in the 80s, Christian can attest to this because we both lived through it, was that for us, PBS showed the Fourth Doctor. So we saw Tom Baker. And that's the only Doctor for me. That's how I grew up. I grew up watching it with Tom Baker. And then he fell and regenerated. And we watched Tom Baker again.
Oh, no.
That we only had the one season.
Oh no!
Well, we only had the one Doctor, I should say. One Doctor.
So we saw 5. We're like, what? Wait, what just happened? And then back to 1.
And only that, but it's a story I tell there, and we got to wrap up there. But it's a story I tell. I said, listen, we grew up Tom Baker, and he would fall off the tower, turn into a blonde, and then Robot would start back up again. That's how I thought that was the end of Doctor Who. And then all of a sudden, they said, "Oh yes, introducing now." I guess they had a big pledge drive, and they made a lot of money. Yes, we're going to introduce you to the 5 Doctors. I'm like, why?
Brilliant.
There are 4 others I didn't realize.
That's really funny.
My cousin, who my aunt is originally from London, so he sometimes grew up over there. They kind of came back and forth, and we would have arguments with Doctor Who, and he's just like, and I just say, no, it's just that one Doctor. He's like, no, there's more than before that. I'm like, no, there wasn't. What are you talking about? Yeah. You're insane. It just
with us, they just skipped all over the place for a while. We got to the end of 4, we waited a while, then finally, we got 5. And then suddenly we're back to Pertwee. And then they showed Pertwee. And then all of a sudden, a little while later, I think they went back into, they finally got the Key to Time series. So we watched that. Yeah. Then next thing you know, we're watching everything they have of Hartnell and Troughton that's not missing. So they were literally all over the place for a while on our PBS channel.
And that's why I don't begrudge kids who come up to me and go, "Oh, Matt Smith is my favorite 3rd Doctor." I'm like, I knew for the longest time that Tom Baker was not the 4th Doctor until PBS bought the 5 Doctors. So I never begrudged them there. Richard, we've come to the end of the show. Is there any last minute things you want to tell our fans and friends out there? And where can they find you online? I know richardashton.com. I know that for a fact.
Sure, richardashtonactor.com. Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I always love to chat to people. And I'm always happy, to friend everyone, because, that's what I hope for the future, that we all stay in touch in these interesting technological ways that we can. Because, I say to people in England, you don't realize without the American fan base, the BBC wouldn't have restarted Doctor Who. Without people keeping the interest going, as fandom, as Whodom, we wouldn't have never got the show back. And here we are in another time where we're having to keep the interest going and also keeping each other going, which is what we really like to do.
That's right. You can come out on Twitter, and I've just put up the your web presence, richardashton.com. And I want to again thank everybody for joining us. Please do stay safe out there. We'll be back next week. We have another guest, and I'm not going to say who it is, but you'll see the announcement soon. And He's more of a Surge guy. I'm just going to leave it at that there, folks. Richard, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Time there. Melanie, Brian, again, please check us out at facebook.com, the Traveling TARDIS. And please, thanks, Alita. Yeah, of course. Thanks for the shout out. Yep, a couple of geeks on Instagram and on the Facebook page there. Oh, Ramona, hello. Sorry you're coming at the end, but I hope you saw the show. Thank you too, guys. And thank you for joining us. Again, please continue to stay logged on, stay tuned in, and always become part of the legend. He's a nice boy.